All right, welcome back. We're going to follow up with our next item, 6.11, or 1 p.m. Consideration of proposed findings of fact and decision in the appeal of Michael Wegner, AB 23-04, County Council.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a following your board's intended decision that was issued on August 27, 2024, as it relates to this appeal, AB 23-04. The appellant is Michael Wegner, and staff has drafted the following the attached findings of fact and decision for your board's consideration and approval. We'll note that there is at least to start, there is one typographical error on the first page of that findings of fact and decision around lines 6 through 7, where it makes reference to a major use or permit. It should be changed to or revised to major use permit.
Okay. So we have an amendment being offered to the document provided. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, let's open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? See no one in the Zoom room and no one in the chamber. Bringing it back to the board for action.
Move to approve the findings of fact and decision and authorize the chair to sign.
Mr. Chair, if I may, with the typographical error amendment.
As amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We still have a minute.
No, got to move to grant the appeal.
Oh,
It's a two further way to read it.
my bad.
Move to grant the appeal.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's go 7.5, appoint Plans Examiner 2, Jack Smalley, to serve as interim chief building official at Advanced Step 2, effective October 11th, 2024. I do see we have our community development director in the back, but I think that the memo is pretty self-explanatory. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Seeing no hands in Zoom and no movement in the chamber, let's bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Plans Examiner 2, Jack Smalley, to serve as interim chief building official at Advanced Step 2, effective October 11, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 6:12, 1:05 p.m. item, consideration of proposed findings of fact and decision in the appeal of Roberto Estrada, AB 23-02, County Council.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So similar to item 6.11, this is also following your board's intended decision back in August 27, 2024, and so staff has prepared the attached findings of fact and decision. And again, with the amendment or proposed amendment on page 1, lines 6, around lines 6 through 7, making reference to a major use or permit, that should be revised to major use permit.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments or questions? All right, nothing from the board. Open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? I see no hands in Zoom and no movement in the chamber. Bringing it back to the board for action.
Chair, I move to approve the findings of fact and the decision as amended and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Also move to grant the appeal.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to see if we can sneak in item 7.4, consideration of appointments to various local area plan advisory committees, LAPACs. We have some applications that have been provided. We do have a new application that was added for the Middletown area, but not sure if we're going to take action on that since Supervisor Simon is not here. But that's regarding Monica Rosenthal's application. We do have, I believe, multiple applications for the shoreline and one application for the, now I lost all my stuff,
Kelseyville.
for Kelseyville. And so any comments, questions?
I did just about the LAPEC for shoreline applications. I just wanted to ask, I know on the application submitted, and I don't think it's really that big of a deal, but I just want to make sure, there's one application that requests to be a LAPEC member, the other two talk about the GPAC. Is that make a difference, or is it they just submitted and just said, I'll do this one as well?
The ones that are from GPAC, we just pulled over from the GPAC application at their request.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just didn't want to be bound to a technicality, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
All right.
And with all of the applications provided, do you have to pick and choose as to, do you have a choice?
Yes, I'll go ahead and pick Donna Mikowitz for LAPEC and Shoreline.
And if there's no further comments, then let's go ahead and open it up for public comment on, at this moment, we're only looking at the Kelseyville and Shoreline applications. I see no hands in Zoom, no movement in the chamber, and we'll take one at a time to appoint.
I'll move to appoint Greg Giusti for the Kelseyville Area Plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I will move to appoint Donna Mikowitz to the Shoreline LAPEC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any rejection to moving forward Monica Rosenthal to the following week when Supervisor Simon is here to make that decision?
No.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. Just wanted to check in with you guys. All right. We're waiting for our 110. So item 6.13, our 1:10 PM item, consideration of proposed findings of fact and decision in the appeals of Legendary Farms LLC, United Investment Ventures LLC, Melissa Smith and Justin Smith. Mr. Guintavano, County Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this appeal, or set of appeals, follows your board's intended decision that was issued at the September 17, 2024 hearing. And staff has also drafted the findings of fact in accordance with that intended decision. So the recommendation by staff is to approve the findings of fact and final and decision, and again with the correction on page 1 of that findings of fact and decision document, lines, this time it's around lines 5 through 6, where the reference to quote-unquote major use permit should be revised to state major use permit. And there are, in this particular set of appeals, there's 3 recommended actions. It would be to, one recommendation is to approve the findings of fact and decision as amended. And then the other 2 are in reference to the 2 separate appeals that were filed. One was on September 1, 2023, and the other is on October 4, 2023.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you. On the proposed findings, on the 4th page, back page, at lines roughly 15 through 18, the meat of the proposed denial of the appeal as it pertains to the use permit says that proposed denial was based on the findings 1, 2, 3, and 5 as stated on page 13 of CDD's 2023 memo when it was presented to the Planning Commission. So I had to dig it up because it wasn't presented, but that staff report does list 5 statements. They're not put forth as findings necessarily, but one basically says the planning director has authority to revoke a use permit, so it's not directly applicable to the merits of the appeal. Items 2 and 3 are basically restatements of clauses from the high severity ordinance, and in the same proposed findings of fact and decision, the staff is recommending granting the appeal as to all the people that were proposed or named as responsible parties. So although I suppose it is a fact or an opinion as stated in the purpose statement of the high severity ordinance at 13-49.1, that engaging in cannabis operations beyond the scope of an existing county permit creates the possibility of substantial jeopardy to the environment and impacts the safety of all county residents. There's no findings of fact that would support that, and again, that's a high severity ordinance reference, and you're not proposing to move forward under that. Similarly, item 3 in the Planning Commission report says that the failure to obtain necessary permits is a fraud against the county. And again, we, in the same proposed findings of fact, we're absolving all the previously named responsible parties of committing that purported fraud. And that language, again, appears at 13-49.1 and 13-50.1. So bullet points 2 and 3 are restatements of a high-severity ordinance that you don't propose to enforce here. And then the last bullet point, additional unpermitted cannabis cultivation in unpermitted structures was supported by electrical power coming from the adjacent parcel, and naming Mr. Estrada, who we just dismissed as a responsible party, and 2 other persons who were tenants of the adjacent parcel. That's not a finding of fact that speaks to the revocation of a permit for Legendary Farms. So that said, I want to be respectful of the last hearing, and my question for you, counsel, is are there other findings of fact that you would propose to put forward that more adequately summarize that prior discussion, but not within the frame of the high severity ordinance?
Well, to the extent that there are any others, the first statement of section 12, that same page of the proposed draft, findings of fact and decision does reference based upon all the foregoing and for the reasons set forth here and above, which does indicate or does expressly state that your board at that hearing took into consideration all arguments, all documents that were submitted by both parties. And so the determination of granting the appeal in part and denying it in part would also be based on those foregoing reasons in these above section 12. The specific reference to findings 1, 2, 3, and 5 follows your board's statement of decision at that September 2024 hearing, by which your board is required to, well, your board issued as part of the findings in reference to the to the staff memorandum that was submitted to the Planning Commission. Your board had extensive discussions as to the applicability of those specific findings, and they were referenced as findings under this subheading of recommendation under that very same page that your board referenced in this Planning Commission, the memo to the Planning Commission. And those findings, your board had substantive discussions regarding whether those findings apply only to high severity violations or to either the high severity violations under Chapter 13 or Article 21. And there were substantive arguments that were submitted by both parties to that effect, and your board ultimately submitted or issued a statement of intended decision that is now reflected in this proposed findings of fact.
Well, just to follow up, I get that those findings would be implied, but the only ones that are expressly stated in the proposed findings are those findings that relate to the high severity. And again, the bullet statements under on page 12, they are statements of fact, yeah.
I got a quick question I want to interrupt. The final vote was based on findings 1, 2, 3, and 5. That was explicitly stated in our final decision made on that appeal. Today, you're just reflecting what was said and what was voted on, and it feels like we're re-litigating the same conversation we had before, because this is, in my opinion, verbatim what we said in our vote and how we got to the end of that conversation.
Well, my recollection is
disagree-
different. Yeah, it's different. Because, again, this document presented today, it's internally inconsistent. We cannot, in the same breath, absolve all the people previously named as responsible parties and then hook our wagon to these particular findings. I think where you're closer, and what would be a more accurate summation of the discussion or hearing, was that they did violate one or more of the terms or conditions on which the permit was granted, or that the use for which the permit was granted was conducted to be detrimental and was a nuisance. So those were the findings that I were looking for there, because I thought that was the gist of what our discussion was. But it's probably just a procedural question. I think we can proceed today without necessarily amending it. But I just want to highlight that these particular findings, if you're going to stick to it, you're going to have to base on the totality of the evidence and other things within the Planning Commission report as justification. I think there may be a cleaner way to do it if you guys had another run at it, but I don't know that it's mission critical to proceeding today. So I want to give you every benefit of the doubt when you move forward with this. But my recollection of that discussion was high severity, no, we're absolving all the responsible persons, and these findings, as they're stated here, this particular section only refers to a high severity violation and a high severity ordinance. So I do take and acknowledge that the staff report did provide other grounds for revocation of permits, but they're not stated in these findings expressly. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? All right, I think as is matches the conversation we had and the end result that we had. And so I think that at this moment in time, this is the formality that we go through is to put down in writing what it is that we deliberated and decided on, and this looks right to me. Let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? And let's go ahead and bring it back to the board for action.
I move to approve the findings of fact and decision and authorize the chair to sign
And just for added clarification, Supervisor Pyska, as amended?
as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
I move to grant the September 1st, 2023 appeal.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right.
I move to grant in part and deny in part the October 4th, 2023 appeal.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. All right, and that completes that item. We've had some folks waiting very patiently with us, so we're going to take up item 7.6, consideration of patch payment on a public guardian conservatee, BB, from general funds in an amount not to exceed $30,000 at $5,000 per month. Please come on up so you can introduce the item. If you wish to take a seat, please do so. And we have Mr. Grogg and Ms. Walker Coleman. Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience. If you could speak right into the microphone, please. And the closer you put it to your mouth, the better, because it's very unsensitive.
We have a conservatee who's been incarcerated for a few years, and we're asking 6 months of care. The only place we can find to place him is in a private boarding care or private facility. When he gets out of incarceration, we will be able to,
Is your microphone
Is that
turned
button
on? You have a button you need to press?
sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm a little hoarse. So, would you like me to start over then? We have a conservatee, he's a probate conservatee. He currently been in incarceration for 3 years. He needs to be released from incarceration. He's there basically because we cannot find a place for him. He has dementia. He's elderly. We have looked in a lot of our normal resources. The problem is he has a unique history. He has a 290 charge. And we cannot find placement for him, except for, we did find placement, but it's in a private, it does not take Medicare, Medi-Cal. We don't have any Medicare, Medi-Cal for him at this point because he's still incarcerated. So once he's released from incarceration, we'll be able to go ahead as public guardian, get his fiduciary responsibilities set up, get his Medicare, Medi-Cal, start receiving payment for them. Then we will search for a different placement because his placement is basically the only place that will take him at this time. Then we will look for something more appropriate that fits his financial responsibility, what he can pay, what he can afford. But in the meantime, we need to get him out of incarceration. It's not good. The jail wants us to get him out of incarceration, and that's where we stand with Mr. Beebe.
All right. Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions? So I do have a question. Just something that was confusing to me, that he needs to get out of jail to get access to Medi-Cal. We made some waiver 1115 changes to the state of California so that you can get your Medi-Cal activated 30 days before release of incarceration. We have not been able to do that yet in order
That's
to...
good information. I wasn't aware of that information.
To be honest, I don't know what the cost difference is between continued incarceration, but I know it's about $70,000 to $80,000 a year. Here we're looking at potentially $30,000 in 6 months. But if we had the ability to get them on Medi-Cal, wait the 30 days, I don't know that it would cost the same. But it's one of those things that I thought about because Cal-AIM has changed a lot in how Medi-Cal works, and 30 days before incarceration, you should be eligible to get reactivated, but a social worker should also be able to work with you to get, if you'd never had Medi-Cal, to get activated in the first place.
What may have happened in that case, though, we don't have a release date. We can't guarantee when he's going to be released because we don't have a place for him to go. So what generally happens is once they are released, and I was not aware of this, so that's good information, we will receive anything back. It'll take approximately 2 to 3 months to receive his first payments from Medicare, but we will receive the monies back, and with that information, perhaps we can go 30 days back even further. But unless we have a release date, we will look into that. I'm not sure we can file that.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that I'm not quite sure how that impacts for today or how others, if that impacts the decision we have to make today. The sentencing of this individual, when is the sentencing supposed to be over? Is this an incompetent to stand trial type of situation? Okay.
Okay. The sentencing is over. He was deemed incompetent to stand trial. But they believe, I'm sorry, I don't know exactly, with his charges, he probably should have been released about a year ago. with the charges, and that's why the jail is so, they want to let him go, and it would not be as safe or late. Yeah.
He needs more care than what the jail can provide him. That's a big part of the issue.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Let's open it up for the public. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Please come on up. Mr. Carter?
Stephen Carter, Assistant County Administrative Officer. I actually did have a question. You were saying when the private place they would be staying does not accept Medi-Cal, Medicare, so when you do get the backfill of the Medi-Cal, Medicare, that can only be used for his future placements?
Well, that's really up to how the money comes in. Again, I don't have experience. If the money, if the $30,000 that we're asking for comes in as one payment, say, and put into his appropriate account, we could add the Medicare, Medi-Cal to that and continue to pay the facility, which we have to pay the $5,000 a month, but it would be our highest priority to move him.
Didn't you just say they wouldn't accept Medi-Cal, Medicare, so you can't use that funding for that placement? We can talk about this later, but
Yeah, maybe again, and maybe I'm confused. I'm a social worker, but I'm just saying, we would use the money to fund it until we found him a new place that accepts Medicare, Medi-Cal. Does that make sense?
yeah, that part does.
Okay.
So you're wanting a one-time 30,000 lump or 5,000 as it comes because we don't know how long they're going to be in that placement?
Well, it would be nice for us to manage it so we can get the payment made on time to the facility. That would be the only reason I would like a lump sum payment. We would like a lump sum payment.
I'm only bringing this up because it helps with what the board is.
No,
actually
it's
gonna-
great, thank you. So, and then I guess if we get in place, then we would do a repayment, or, I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sure that a repayment is possible if you're paying private insurance. If you're paying privately, I don't know how we would get reimbursed by Medi-Cal because they're not there as a Medi-Cal patient. They're there as a private patient. We would get reimbursed later on when they move to a Medi-Cal facility. And so the request is for money that will not be reimbursed to temporarily place them in a facility that can provide the care that they require, with the expectation to move them as quickly to a different facility that does take Medi-Cal, and therefore the reimbursements would start to occur at that point.
I guess what I was thinking is that if we get him moved in 3 to 4 months, because we're going to keep going on the track that we're on, moving him, we would then pay it back from the money that we bought, that you're giving us now. We wouldn't need to get it from Medicare, Medi-Cal. We would just, I guess, put it in the same account.
From everything you're saying, the 30 grand will pay for the private. You'll be going out for Medi-Cal, Medicare. You'll have to stockpile that and use that for his new placement. The 30,000 will not be reimbursed in any way from the Medi-Cal funds. If he stays in that placement longer than 30,000 holds, we would have to come back to the board because it's not, from your statement, not eligible for Medi-Cal, Medi-Cal.
Right, right, and that's what we would have to do. And I assume we would have to continue making reports.
Correct, CAO Parker?
I just have a suggestion, but I was waiting for the chair.
Please.
There seems to be a lot of questions as to process and moving this forward, and I would like to encourage the board to consider continuing this to the 22nd and have the opportunity Why?
Because I've already talked to them about this, I don't know that we would have any.
So if I may interrupt in that conversation, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but
Yes.
there is a timeline. I believe that November 1st was potentially the latest date. It could be earlier, but they're not holding that place forever. So there is a timeline to say yes at the very least. I know I'm interested in finding out, if you look at the CalAIM and the 1115 waiver, what opportunities does that expand by getting them on Medi-Cal? Because if they're already supposed to be released and it's just an issue of finding a facility, maybe that can help you to get them under Medi-Cal right now, and then Not that we have 20 facilities that are always available, but I'd like to see what that changes for you guys, and if it's possible to see that in 2 weeks. That's my opinion. I'll see how the rest of the board feels, and I apologize for the interruption.
Fine.
Any
That's fine.
other public comment? Let me go ahead and
Thank you.
finish public comment. You're
Thank you
welcome.
for that information. We will,
And I see no further comments in Zoom or in the board chamber, so I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the board with Supervisor Green.
So super quick question before I get too deep down the Medi-Cal rabbit hole. There is a need for speed. We do have a private facility, but, and I'm not asking for any like HIPAA information on that, but depending on the disability or disabilities plural, there may not be a huge amount of Medi-Cal facilities that can handle this anyway, right? So I understand the concern to be cost efficient and prudent and see if Medi-Cal will fill the gaps. But in your experience as a social worker, beds are beds, right? So the fact we have a private bed at all is a minor miracle. In this space, given the level of disabilities, is to your awareness, are there a number of Medi-Cal eligible facilities that do take this type of patient?
yes.
Okay, so we,
But not with the criminal history that he has. That's the stop. With his disabilities, yes.
okay. So-
Okay, but it's because of the type of charge that he's been charged with that limits it.
So it's fair to say it'll be a difficult placement, could well extend beyond 6 months even if we place him in this private bed. So let's just prep for any sticker shock that comes with that. That said, jail can't take care of him, so let's get proper medical care.
And what we have found is once he is placed in the community, we get a good report. You know, we do monthly case conferences. He'll be much easier to place once he's out of incarceration. And that's,
And he'll continue to be a conservatee, you'll continue to be his caseworker?
Correct.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Closed public comment and looking for action then.
You said you wanted to bring it back?
I'd love to find out what CalAIM and the changes that had occurred for our incarcerated releases to see what opportunities that might open up, but that's up to the rest of the board to how they feel about that.
You had mentioned, CAO, that it might be ideal, or?
Well, it seemed like there were a lot of unanswered questions, and I would like to move forward, have the board have a fully informed decision, including the chair's question and her new information that was provided to you, but would only be to the 22nd. I think that's sufficient time to bring it back, and it still will before the November 1st date.
we'd like to have him moved by the 1st.
Right.
I think that gives plenty of time if we can, we don't have a meeting next week, but that would, yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like we'll go ahead and get a little bit more information and look into that and come back on the 22nd to make a final decision.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to take up item 7.7, consideration of proposed Chapter 7 tax defaulted land sale. And we have our treasurer tax collector, Patrick Sullivan, and full team. Deputy Tax Director Liz Martinez, and our Auditor Controller Genevieve.
Thank you. Treasury Tax Collector Patrick Sullivan. I invited the Auditor Controller's Office here today because there's a lot of impacts related to this sale and some of the other recent deficit sales that may be applicable. So I want to make sure she was here for part of the discussion as well in case it goes that direction. So I just want to give some background about what this sale proposal is and how we got here. So this item represents the remainder of our inventory, of our tax defaulted inventory that is either legally required to be sold right now because it's past the 6-year mark. We're legally required to bring properties to sale every 6 years if they have not previously sold at an auction, or they are soon going to hit that mark because we've been doing sales over the last several years now, but even those earlier sales, they're now coming up on this clock. So this is basically a quick look in our system to grab all parcels that could possibly meet that definition. I just want to be clear at the outset, there are parcels on here that ultimately would be found ineligible if we were to go deeper into this sale. Due to bankruptcy, payment plans, there's other certain obstacles that appear that do require us to pull them from a sale. But at this point, we have not gone any further than this on any of these properties. So if someone's just looking at this list and seeing a property that they know might be otherwise ineligible, like in this inventory, there are government properties, government-owned, where the transfer process has never been fully completed. There's government, special districts, tribal property in here. All of it shows as being delinquent, and there's a process that needs to be gone through to remove it from the roll. So what typically happens is we'd get deeper into the sale. At a certain point, we'd check all those boxes and be able to remove it. But I just want to highlight what this list means right now. So as I was stating, every 6 years, we have to bring properties that have not previously successfully sold at a sale and try them again. At this time, if you go back to just bring up the settlement agreement we had with Clear Lake, where we had a pool of properties that was tax defaulted. We were trying to work through that remaining inventory at 1,000 properties a year. What we focused on was all of the properties that were in the city of Clear Lake, all of those that existed as of, what was that, 2 years ago. We've attempted to auction all of those. We've also attempted to auction all properties in the county that were found eligible that were over $5,000 in value. So right now, this list that you're seeing are either properties that are soon going to hit that 6-year mark, or the majority of it are the paper subdivisions and the low-value lots. So we obviously have that backlog in the county, as we all know. We've tried to figure out a way to deal with them, and that's something I just want to raise today, that there's still, it's important that we come up with a long-term resolution to this. Otherwise, I mean, what would happen right now if I was not bringing this item, or if the board were to approve this item, the only properties I'm legally obligated to bring to auction right now are those low-value lots. I have to bring any new properties within 4 years of eligibility, and I have to bring existing every 6. So I would be doing an auction of 1,000, you know, we try for 1,000, I don't know if we could do it, but we would try to auction 1,000 paper lots. What I just wanted to highlight here is that the cost associated with these auctions is quite large. It comes from the general fund. It works out between $500 and $700 per lot in order to bring it through the auction process. So if we were to end up doing an auction like that, that would be, you know, let's say a $600,000 hit to the general fund. Just to give some stats from the last auction, when we were still offering some decent inventory and we were purposefully excluding those paper subs, 78% did not get a bid. We only got bids on 22% of auction items. And that was with still some remaining viable inventory. So we would expect no bids. And in fact, potentially the worst case scenario would be that we get a bid, because it would be someone most likely that doesn't understand what they're buying. And it puts us back in that cycle where we were having purchases made by people that didn't know what they were getting into, that felt like they had been scammed or defrauded. And that's definitely not a path we want to end up on again. So just to give some other background here, these types of properties that remain, they constitute approximately 22.4% of parcels on our tax roll, but they're less than 1% of the total tax bill. Total tax bills are issued, including taxes and direct charges from districts. When you break it down to just the base tax that's owed, just that 1%, even though these parcels represent, you know, such a large percentage of our inventory, it's only 0.25%. It's 1/4% of the base tax that's billed by us. So this is a very small amount of our roll. It's a very small amount of our inventory. These properties tend to carry a much higher delinquency rate. It's about 7 times our average. 74% of our tax defaulted inventory, as of when we ran these stats last year, was 74% of our inventory that's eligible for auction, I guess I'd say, was under $5,000 in value. So it's this problem that we can barely recover. If we were to bring them to auction, if we recovered anything at all, we probably couldn't even recover our costs. We would likely just be out that money in its entirety. So I guess now because I'm obligated to bring a sale forward, I have to attempt a sale. That's what brought this item on. I wanted to provide that background. I don't know if Ms. Martinez or Ms. Harrington have anything else they wanted to add about some of the costs or work that's involved with the offices in doing these.
Did the 5 to 700 per parcel include the title report?
It does,
Okay.
actually.
So I did do some research on the last sale, and I think that's the biggest worry that I have is just the cost of this. I mean, I know that a lot of the conversations that the board has is with how much money everything is costing, right? So to us, just through all these years that we've been researching this stuff, I mean, we're only selling 22% of these properties. So we're offering between 900 and 1,000. So we're not even recovering. On this last sale, 72% of the costs that went into these parcels, the reality is we're not going to recuperate those costs. And so I feel like if we keep offering paper subdivisions and things like that, I feel like we're just digging ourselves into a bigger hole as far as the money that's coming out of the general fund. I just wanted to.
So then I would just highlight at this point, what we're asking our board to consider is this particular sale proposal. Our office is already working on an alternative sale that would likely comprise the newer properties. That's one of our goals, is that we haven't, because of the existing circumstances, we've not been able to offer anything that's gone eligible for auction in the past few years. We also have requests through code enforcement, through other neighbors. There's problem lots that departments have raised with us. We want the opportunity to get to those. If we don't do something different, we will be trapped in multiple years of paper subdivision sales exclusively. So just to be clear, I know this proposal is a little strange. Normally we bring a proposal much later in the year that's more refined and has a lot more information, but we basically have to get this out of the way now in order to proceed with the rest of our work. Otherwise we're going to be spinning our wheels and could potentially result in no sale. So we're happy to answer any questions you may have. I know that was a lot of background to go through, but I think it's important just to understand how we got here.
And just because I know there's some confusion from the public, your recommendation, can you provide that to ensure that people know that what is being recommended and what is being put in front of us?
So I am recommending that the board deny this proposal. I am statutorily mandated to attempt a sale on these types of properties, but it would not be in the county's financial best interest to do this sale. And so I would have to recommend that your board deny this. I'm mandated to bring it. I don't really like bringing some of these items. If I had my preference, I would not even show paper parcels to the Board of Supervisors until we had a better solution.
Thank you for that. Any comments or questions? Supervisor Green?
Well, seems it wasn't that long ago, we had a certain city barking pretty loudly about holding tax sales. And I'm looking at the Revenue and Taxation Code. Doesn't appear to be a discretionary act. So does your office have discretion? Does this board have discretion to take the recommended action? Because kicking the can down the road until you have a better solution may be quite a wait.
So I can take my stab at that, and then I don't know if Lloyd, you want to weigh in, but I'm obligated to attempt to sell these properties. The Board of Supervisors has the ultimate discretion on whether or not a sale is approved, whether or not a property is sold. So I have no control over whether or not your board ultimately approves a sale. Normally when we bring property listings to you, your board has the discretion to remove any or all of them from the proposed sale. So all I can do is bring a proposal. It's up to your board to either reject it or accept it. But there's nothing I can do to force the county to sell a property. That's completely beyond my discretion. And I think to further address your question, I mean, the unusual circumstance here in Lake County that makes us different than everywhere else is that we have so many low-value lots. There's only 6 counties left that don't have a low-value ordinance. So it's hard to find a situation like ours because there really isn't one. We tax everything, no matter how financially reckless or detrimental to the county it may be. We slap a tax bill on every single property here. So there really is nothing. I mean, if you're trying to look for a norm or trying to find an analogous situation, you're not going to find one. We are kind of an outlier here.
Would it be, like, I think the combination of no low-value ordinance, no tax sale for 20, 30 years, paper subs, in addition to the state controller recommendation being turned into an order of sorts. So that very unique situation is Lake County alone. So I think that you have to kind of, to consider all of that. That makes it very unique. This situation is very unique.
Yeah, and so until we address the root of the problem, I mean, which can really only be done with either one of two options. You either do a low-value ordinance and a discharge, remove the remaining debt. That's the most streamlined approach, so that we're never in this situation again. Because all the time we spend on this, even today, is time lost that we could spend on more valuable things. The other way is if we're not going to do a low-value ordinance and do a discharge, because there are agencies or entities that want to acquire these lots, that's another viable option. The difficult part is it's a checkerboard up there, which is a detriment to anyone that wants to acquire it. We have multiple tax defaulted lots next to multiple lots that are paid, and then every combination in between. So unless an agency is looking to acquire these swaths of land through a combination of tax sales and some other mechanism, whether it's direct purchase or eminent domain, I don't really see a path forward where someone's going to grab enough of these lots to do something functional with, except in very narrow areas. But right now, we don't have a way to address these 10,000 plus lots. Previously, the board, before 2015, had given direction not to sell them. That was the prior direction of Treasurer Tax Collector, and that was included in the paper subdivision management plan. So the county had previously dealt with this by not selling the lots, and that was intentional through both the board and the TTC. But later, when these issues were raised with the state controller's office, it raised that point that there was not the discretion that I believe the board and the tax collector previously thought they may have had. So that forced the sales, and that's what's brought us to this point now, where we can't just sit on the paper subs until a solution comes up with. We have to address them one way or the other.
So it sounds like we don't have discretion, and it sounds like the state has confirmed that for us. So again, despite the difficulty it imposes, the recommended action, absent some showing that we do have discretion, and I guess it was prior board direction. I don't know if that was in the form of reso or what. I guess we could research that, but I'm just struggling. It seems pretty mandatory here, the word shall, and I'm not hearing of any alternative process that would apply to us, and you're not bringing that. So thank you for that information.
So quick question. Here, we don't have a resolution. So nothing that we decide today is necessarily binding. This gives you kind of a consensus of what our thoughts are on your proposal. You would come back if we approve or not approve with something more binding and final as a resolution. So today we're having a discussion based on your discussions with the state controller's office and trying to figure out how best to maneuver through this, because this is a mess from 1920s. We have yet to resolve it, and we need to resolve it, and I appreciate your efforts so far. We've done some Chapter 8 sales, and we're going to be moving forward. On Wednesday, we already have an appointment to meet with the city of Clear Lake to talk about paper parcels and exactly the kind of conversation that you're saying outside of a low value ordinance. This is the other thing that we have yet to ever do, and we're meeting tomorrow to start that process. You've only been here for about 1 year and 10 months in your position, and so far we're seeing that there's movement outside of the regular stuff that we've done in the past. So I have high hopes that we're going to be able to find some solutions. It may take time for the full conclusion of them, but I think we're going to take those steps. I'm okay with saying yes today to the denial, to agreeing with your proposal. However, when this does come back as a resolution, what I would like to ask is for a greater level of details, because I see properties with houses on there, but yet I can't see if there's bankruptcy, if there's a payment plan, and so I can easily tell when it's a paper parcel. I know where the water stops, I know where the sewer stops, and I know that it's vacant land because I can visually see it and I know the areas. But for those that have homes, it was shocking at first until you and I had a conversation to see, wait, I know there's homes here. Why are they on the list? Well, there's other reasons, as you alluded to earlier. So I would like to see that level of detail if we're denying it, so that we're not denying something and agreeing to something that we can't see the details as to why. So that would be my only request when this comes back, if that's the vote of the board to do so.
I would add to that as well, that by the time we bring that list to the board, partially to avoid publishing names, or because once we add a level of publication, there's other implications involved. So we will have screened those out by then for the most part, to the best of our ability. So when the board receives that list, as you have in other years, most of that work has already been done. But that work takes several months. That work is already underway right now in the alternative proposal that's in the works. So.
And I think with recent Supreme Court cases, even though you may have gotten 72% no activity, the fact that we had them on the auction gives us better leverage and better position to then do a Chapter 8 sale, to work with other jurisdictions, to be able to try to do those direct sales, based on our conversation that we've had in the past. So it's kind of like you have to take steps in order to get to that final potential solution, and if we had not taken those steps, maybe we would be hesitant to even do the direct sales. So I'll leave it at that so we can move forward, but that's where I would like to see us moving, is saying yes to today and asking for greater level of detail.
Yeah, I think that would help. But I know that on the map, you could see like the red shows that it's been, I mean, when I look at this map for the GIS on the county webpage, you can see all of the parcels that are red, orange, and yellow that are paper parcels and whatnot. I think that helps though with what you're requesting, Supervisor Sabatier or Chair Sabatier, because it can't really necessarily tell if there's a payment plan when you click on it as well. So that would help. Most of the time you can see in the town that if they are, that it's possibly one of those deals that they either haven't paid or they got a payment plan. But yeah, no, I was looking at the paper parcels plan that was done about 10 years ago, or if not more. And I know it's a little outdated, you know, when you look at some of the things that are listed on there. So I know after the general plan and the shoreline area plans are reinvigorated and fixed, I think that's where we can address and build off of that previous document. But it does say not to sell them in that plan, so that's another thing that I could agree with.
And just to let you know, I spoke with Mr. Sullivan. There will be an update to that GIS map, since I think the last update was April 2023 or something along those lines. And so we've done 2 tax sales since then, and so that will update and let us know. I believe 2 tax sales. Let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. And we have a phone number ending in 9724.
Hi. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yes. My name is Darius. I am the owner of one of those parcels on that list. I joined this a little late, and I'm just found out about it last night. I also recently submitted an e-comment a couple hours ago or less. I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to review that.
Yes, we actually have a printout of your comments right on the dais.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I would really like to know how my property would wind up on a list like that. I mean, I see some kind of problem in this process if my property could wind up in that kind of list. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's not going forward, which I'm glad to hear. And I just wanted to make myself available in case you did have any questions about it.
We appreciate your comment. We received it and appreciate your comment here now as well. And I would say please reach out to our tax collector so he can explain better the reasons for how you got on the list. But as you heard today, we're looking to deny moving forward with sales tax with the list that we received.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, then. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment to make, a question from the public? Anyone wish to speak on this? And seeing none, bringing it back to the board.
I move that we deny proposed Chapter 7 tax sale.
Mr. Chair, just as a suggestion, along with that motion, if the denial, if your board decides to deny the proposed Chapter 7 tax sale, that it would be a denial in concept, to make it more in line with Revenue and Taxation Code,
True.
Sections 3690 and 3699.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Guintabano, thank you for that clarification. That was helpful. And we do have Director Jones with us. We're going to take up item 7.3, consideration of agreement between County of Lake and Hilltop Recovery Services for ASAM levels 1.0, 2.1, 3.2, and 3.5 services in the amount of $697,500 for fiscal year 24-25. Director Jones.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Board. This is an agreement that expands our relationship with Hilltop Recovery Services as part of the Drug Medi-Cal Organized Delivery System 1115B waiver. They are going to expand their provision of outpatient, including outpatient, intensive outpatient services. So you'll see reimbursements for those services, as well as, of course, their residential placements, and the contract maximum should reflect all of that.
So quick question on the contract maximum. Within the contract, it says $1,663,200. Within the memo and the agenda, it says $697,500. Which one should we be looking to approve?
One moment. Just want to double check. It should be the 1.6 million.
Okay, $1,663,200.
Yes.
My next question for you is for the term in number 2. It says from June 1st, 2024 to June 30th. Should that be July 1st? Since we're at the title, it says it's for 24-25.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and then in the title, it says level 1.0, but it doesn't say 2.1 like it does in the agenda, and I see in the further exhibits that it does speak to 2.1. Wondering if
You're
you wanted
correct.
to add that in there.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, so I would offer that those be amendments if we go ahead and move forward with this today, but I have no further questions. Are there any other questions regarding this item? Supervisor Green.
Just on the date change on June 1, if there were any services incurred in that, and that was in there to attempt to recoup that.
It's not.
It's not? Thank
No.
you.
Thank you, though.
And without any further comments, let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Seeing none in the chamber and none in the Zoom room, bringing it back to the board for action with those amendments.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agreement between County of Lake and Hilltop Recovery Services for ASAM levels 1.0, 2.1, 3.2, and 3.5 services in the amount of $1,663,200. How did I mess that up? One more time. $1,663,200. There we go. For fiscal year 24 and 25?
Yes.
And with additions and corrections?
As amended and authorized.
As amended and authorize the chair to sign. There we go.
We're going to get there. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Director Jones. And I believe that this leaves us only with our, correct me if I'm wrong, but 7.1?
7.2
Oh, 7.2.
in our 2 o'clock closed session.
Yes, and I was hoping that we can finalize everything and be able to move there. Let's go ahead and take 7.2, consideration of response to the 23-24 Lake County Civil Grand Jury Final Report. And we have DCAO, ACAO? Chief DCAO, Never going to get it right, sorry. Mr. Rothstein, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Matthew Rothstein, Chief Deputy County Administrative Officer, and it's a privilege to address your board this afternoon as always. Each year, the Lake County Civil Grand Jury's final report documents findings and recommendations of their investigations. In recent years, your board or relevant departments, and in some cases both, have been invited to respond to the grand jury's recommendations. We very much appreciate the hard work of the members of the civil grand jury and the important oversight role the grand juries play in ensuring effective governance. You will have seen the draft Board of Supervisors response attached to today's agenda, prepared pursuant to Penal Code Sections 933 and 933.05. Draft responses included information that was provided by department heads and county staff, and we're really, truly grateful always to all who take time to contribute to these responses. And your board's final response must be submitted to Judge Markham today. Copies of departmental responses will be included with your board's submittal, and staff recommends your board approve the 2023-24 grand jury response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments, questions regarding the response? Seeing none, let's open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Nothing in the chamber, nothing in the Zoom room. Bringing it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve response to the 2023-24 Lake County Civil Grand Jury final report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I want to thank all the departments that helped to provide the responses, and definitely a thank you to those involved in the grand jury as well. So thank you very much. Do I need to sign now so you can run it upstairs? Do today. Thank you. And let's go ahead and pick up our weekly calendars so we can go ahead and close up. If it's possible to keep it brief, that would be great. Let's start with Supervisor Green.
Super brief. Tonight, going to Lakeport Fire Board meeting. Tomorrow, I'll be filling in for Supervisor Simon at APC LTA. I don't see a whole lot else on that. So how's that for brief?
That's brief. Supervisor Pyska?
Tomorrow, I'm going to drive to Tahoe for the Wildfire Forest Health conference, so I'll come back Friday. I do have my NACO EELU call, so I'll take that on the way there. And then the 13th is Sunday night, it's a Cobb School Garden Gala. The Tuesday is the Wave of Light Pregnancy Loss Remembrance Night at that ranch. Wednesday the 16th, I have our monthly biomass meeting. Monthly, it looks like I have two of them, one OPR and one RRA. And I don't know if I'll get to the CWA social. Thursday, the 17th, I have the grand jury and the Cobb Area Council. Friday, the 18th, my CSAT class, plus that's when the area plan virtual meetings start. And then the Health and Wellness Expo at Hobbiton Park is on the 19th. The 20th is Brad's service, so I hope you guys will be going there. I'm already RSVP'd for that. And then on the 21st is Disaster Council, my meeting with CAO Parker, Community Area Plan Virtual Input, and the Risk Reduction Authority. So it's going to be a very busy Monday. It sounds like probably a busy agenda to prepare for on the 22nd, too.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair.
All right, so I think it's a forestry meeting on Thursday. That's what it looks like on my calendar. Larka, I'm going to meet with the Rotary. Russ Kramer has asked for some information on some of the folks that were affected by the Glenhaven fire, so I'm going to go ahead and be on that meeting with them. Let's see. Monday, obviously. holiday Potter Valley Project meeting, I think it's with PG&E, on Tuesday the 15th. In the morning on the 16th, and North Shore Business Association will be meeting at 7 a.m. at the Talman Hotel. Cecilia Aguilar Curry will be there as a guest. And then the West Region Town Hall that evening. I have a meeting with staff about the opening for the Collier project. Friday, I know there's something, I just don't have it listed properly on here, but it's, yeah, I don't want to mess up. But I do know that I need to RSVP for Brad's, his memorial. And then I think it's a CAO meeting and back here on the 22nd.
Thank you very much. Tomorrow, starting off with the Lake Transit Authority and Area Planning Commission, meeting with the City of Clear Lake with our tax collector to discuss paper parcels. Continuing that with a meeting with Adventist Health and the Hub for continuum of care and ensuring that all those systems are working properly. On Thursday, starting early with the judge's breakfast, we'll have both candidates from District 1. Then I'm meeting with the COC Pit Count Committee, and not sure what that is, but finishing the day at the end with a Yuba Community College District board meeting. On Friday the 11th, I believe it starts at 10. I have it here at 9, but I think it's for setup. The Resilience Reentry will be over at Woodland Community College. I'll be there. And then having a Food Policy Council towards the evening. And again, the Resilient Reentry is from 10 to 2 p.m., I believe, or 10 to 3 p.m. I'm just going to skip the rest. Very busy week coming up with a lot of NACO stuff in between. I do want to say that Supervisor Green, Vice Chair Crandall, and I were at the One Team, One Dream. We were a proud sponsor of that event. It went really well, incredible businesses doing incredible things. So please continue supporting our local businesses. That's what that competition is all about. So look out for those businesses that receive some funding to be able to expand or help them create new businesses here in Lake County. And I will finish with that. We will go back to closed session where we still have 8.1 that was open. I'll just go ahead and reread that. Public Employee Evaluation, title Public Health Director, and then 8.2 or 2 p.m. Public Employee Evaluation, title Public Health Officer. And with that, we will close our open session and finish up in our closed session. Thank you very much for joining us today.
All right.